Hello, good evening. Welcome to the February 2nd, 2026 meeting of the Instructional Policy and Student Achievement Committee. My name is Dr. Renee Molnar. I'm the chair of this committee. Joining us this evening, we also have committee members Gregory Harrison and Nathan Jarosz and board member Carmea Kelly. We also have at our table our Superintendent Outley and Assistant Superintendent and committee member Dr. Lash. So thank you for everyone joining us virtually and in person. We have a decent crowd today, so thank you. The first item for business today is approval of the previous meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, thank you. The meeting minutes of our January meeting have been approved. Next on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment this evening? And as it does not appear so, we are going to move right along because we only have an hour. So this is the first meeting that we are having with our new instructional policy agenda. We are trying to, for anyone who was not here for our last meeting, we are trying to identify items prepared for future board action to really utilize this committee in a way that informs board decision making and includes the community in that also. So the difference between theory and practice is practice. And practice makes perfect. So we do have a lovely agenda here, and I know Dr. Lash and I met a couple times and we tried to work out, and there's a beautiful script. We're going to work through this, maybe not in the exact order, because now that I see the attachments and I see all the information, I agree that what you said before, presenting it in the other way, might make a little bit more sense and might be productive to the decision making of the board. And so just keeping that in mind in everything that we're doing, we only have an hour, and the point is so we can make decisions. So I do think, Dr. Lash, what you had here for section 4, the mid-year performance update, culture of safety, belonging, and academic achievement. The data here really grounds what the content you brought for section 3.1 and 3.2. And so if we could hear that data and then how that relates to 3.1 and 3.2, because from what I saw in the presentation, it looked like there was maybe some personnel decisions eventually being involved. And so knowing why and the value that those personnel would bring, I think would be very, very helpful. So we are going to skip ahead to section 4.1. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, and so skipping ahead to 4.01, our data assessment and student achievement, we do want to do a high-level overview of semester 1, progress for both Cornerstone 1 and Cornerstone 2 of our blueprint for excellent strategic plan. So we have a couple of mid-year data points relative to specific objectives within those two cornerstones, and so I'm going to ask Keith Lichty Clifford and Tuan Dang Nguyen to just join us at the podium to aid in the discussion. And so these updates really serve as a check for us, just really to look at our tactical moves, the commitments that we made, and make some determination of how we are moving in relation to the goals that we set. All right, so we're going to start with Cornerstone 1, which is our culture of safety and belonging. And we're just going to take a second here to get the slide. There we go. Okay, so this cornerstone of our strategic plan is really about the school community and stakeholders in our school community and ensuring that they all feel respected and supported. And so in the next slide, There are two objectives that we pull out here. One of the objectives we set was to increase the number of scholars with an attendance rate of 90% or greater. And so we've seen a strong trend here with 62% of our students maintaining an attendance rate of 90% or greater at the end of semester one, compared to, if you see that on the screen, 56.4% of students last year. Now, that was for the overall year. That 56.4% of our students had an attendance rate of 90% or greater. And so right now, at this point, mid-year, we are trending upward. The other objective that we set out to achieve was to decrease out-of-school suspensions. And so when we look at the question of how many out-of-school suspensions occurred, again, last year, you see the overall total, there were 9,794 occurrences of out-of-school suspension. And so right now at the conclusion of semester one, we've had 4,468 occurrences. So it's trending lower than where we were overall for last year. And so to sustain this, I probably don't have to remind everyone that we've had some calamity days. And so what a great opportunity, not only to come back and start second semester strong, but after some time away from school. So one of the things that our buildings will be doing is holding reset meetings just to review PBIS expectations for the building. We are also working on a parent communication. Our Superintendent Outley, who's right here with us tonight, sent communication home to our families. We set, through our MTSS, multi-tiered system of support, we set kind of a decision rule of 3 incidents in a quarter. And so for any of our students that have had 3 or more incidents for the second quarter, we are sending communication home to just inform our families, and the communication is pretty detailed. It does identify what the infractions are, and we are asking our families to help us communicate expectations with their students so at home. We also are taking a deeper dive into the data. So PBIS teams at the building level do take time to look at their suspension data to see what types of infractions are occurring, those kinds of things, just to better be able to support decision making with students. And so part of that next level work is also strengthening our Tier 1, Tier 2 support. And so as buildings look at their data, identifying, again, where do we need to support scholars. Okay, so that is Cornerstone 1. For Cornerstone 2, I'm going to ask Keith and Dr. Nguyen.
Thank you. So Cornerstone 2 is around our academics, which we're excited to be here to share a little bit more about that in another segment. But around academics, really committed to making sure that we have a high quality Tier 1 core instruction and that our support systems are in place for Tier 2 and Tier 3. So generally, you guys are familiar with the state report card. Like, that's our overall measurement of success. But in between, we needed to identify some benchmarks. And one way we do that is looking at our iReady diagnostic assessment, which we give in grades K through 8, reading and math. And then also we look at the quarterly assessments created by our learning specialists and teams of teachers in those upper level courses. So just to go over the chart a little bit with you, if you see one of our main goals is to increase the percentage of students who are reading on grade level. And so I would like to call out that when you look at the 24-25, you're looking at end of the year progress. So right now we're midway through, and so we don't expect to be exactly at those end of the year goals yet, but we expect to be making progress towards it. So while you'll notice from 24-25 to 25-26 in reading in math. Those elementary grades, they're making progress. They've not quite met those end of the year goals yet. So for example, third grade ended last year at 45% of our students proficient in ELA. And, right now those third graders are about 40%. I feel like that's pretty good progress. We've got another semester to meet or exceed that 45. I am proud to say that when we look at middle school, we're seeing, we're outperforming right now where we ended the end of the year last year. So that is a great sign. So again, just kind of calling that out. You can see sixth grade last year, we ended with about 29% of our kids showing proficiency on that iReady. Right now, mid-year, we're already at 36. So that's some really great hope as we look forward to that end of the year OST assessments. Same thing in math, trending that same way. Elementary, they're kind of on track from where we were last year, and in 6th through 8th, we're exceeding those end of the year scores already. So again, showing us some signs that we're making some really good progress. I do need to mention in our ELA 2 and Algebra 1, those secondary assessments, we are comparing the OST, so in 24-25, that's the level of proficiency that we received on that end of year assessment. The best way to gauge where we are now is, again, using those quarterly assessments. They're OST-like, they're OST questions that we've created. The biggest difference in this benchmarking is that the OST is a analysis of the year-long set of standards, where our quarterly assessments are chunked to give our teachers and administrators a good idea, like, did the kids master what we taught this 9 weeks? So again, with the snow days, you can see we're 82% reported in ELA and about 69% reported in Algebra 1, meaning the snow days prevented us to complete all those tests yet. But given that, we are at 36% showing proficiency in 10th grade ELA 2, means 10th grade ELA. In Algebra 1 right now, we're 30% proficient. Now, I did do a look back, and that is actually a percentage or two higher from where we were mid-year last year. But again, not quite hitting that mark in Algebra 1 yet in terms of where we ended the year. So we'll be looking and monitoring that data.
So our quarter assessments this year were pulled from the bank of questions from the CRS bank of questions from OST. So we really align it for our teachers. So it's really nice. In past years, we had a different bank of questions, but they're all standards-based. So this year, we decided to use questions right from the OST bank.
Good. And so for us, it's really about data conversations. Now, we lost that instructional improvement day to a snow day, but we still have our professional learning communities, and our buildings right now are engaged in their SIP teams, looking at this data, diving into it, and determining their next steps. We're also monitoring. You're going to hear a little bit about our explicit instruction strategies, and so that's one of our key universal strategies this year in terms of delivery of instruction. Dr. Nguyen is going to talk to you a little bit about ECRI, which is another driving factor in our elementary classrooms that's going to help close those gaps. And of course, we're looking and monitoring at our Tier 1 and 2 systems of intervention in both reading and math. This is our mid-year, check-in as we work with buildings. Tuan actually had some great professional development mid-year with iReady. Did you want to mention?
Yes, we had wonderful data conversations with individual principals as we work through their data and talk about how can we, improve the data by the end of the year. So our principals, we had great conversations. They had next step plans to continue to lead the building in their buildings with the implementation of iReady, the teaching, the differentiation of instruction at their buildings.
And then Aaron Markovic, right before the break, met with our instructional coaches, and they dug apart the assessment data that we had to put in their coaching cycle. So we do have coaches in almost every building who help the teachers in their professional learning communities unpack that data and help determine like what are the next steps for me as a classroom teacher. So that work continues. And then we are also gearing up. We're working with Teaching and Learning and Mrs. Carter on our 3GG programming. So we're targeting next level work with certain third graders who are kind of on the bubble and need to shore up some skills before our state testing. And so we're ramping up and getting personnel in place for some of those targeted tutoring.
So we had the training for our 3GG tutors today. So we had 2 training opportunities in the AM or in the PM. So we had our training for 3GG.
Thank you. I'll turn it back over to you, Dr. Lash.
Thank you, Mr. Lichty-Clifford and Dr. Nguyen. And so, Madam Chair, that is the report out on those 2 items. And again, as you stated, so the 3GG, those are some things that the board will see on future agendas requesting approval once those staff members are identified, the approval of their extended time to be able to support our scholars. Right.
Thank you. I'm going to open up to questions from the committee. Before I do, when you said 3GG, is that what you have in section 3.01, or is that separate from that?
Separate, but
Separate?
connected,
Okay.
yes.
Questions from the committee?
So 2 questions with the first objective or cornerstone 1. So when you mentioned with what attributed to the 4 points of growth in student attendance that we were trying to get to 90%, why is it different now than it was before? What was implemented? How did we get to that improvement?
Great question, Member Jaros, and that's one that is oftentimes hard to, just pinpoint exactly what it is when we do so many things. And so we have chronic absenteeism letters that we send home to all students. And I say chronic absenteeism, but I'm looking at Dr. Monar. She probably received one, but not because of chronic absenteeism for your scholars. But it is a letter that we send home to let families know where their students are with their attendance and if they are under chronic absenteeism or not, with some other language depending on, if they are staying on track, they're doing great, keep up the good work. If not, let us help you. And so we know that communication is one of those pieces, like families need to know the standing of their scholars. We also have some Stay in the Game initiatives that come out of the Office of Student and Family Services with different like contests, if you will. Like, for instance, we do like an Everyday in May where we're trying to, drum up some excitement around some competition around homeroom attendance, those kinds of things. Of course, at the building level, PBIS, buildings will run contests to, tickets or what have you to visit the PBIS store and, get trinkets. And so we really try to figure out what's going to not only communicate but also promote positive school attendance.
Follow-up question is, so it looks like we're addressing it with like a letter that, okay, if you're absent for this many days, these are the consequences. So there's that concern that if you don't follow along, this is the consequence. Also more extrinsic motivations like the PBIS points, Stay in the Game initiatives. Have we led discussions with our students asking them what would make them be more likely to attend school? What do they need to see from the school building to make them want to be here? Maybe more of an intrinsic motivation. Have we talked to them about what would make them more likely to attend class? And have we gotten any sort of feedback from them?
Yeah, great. Another great question. And I look to our executive directors of school leadership that are in the audience with us and invite either one of them to come up and talk through some specific things. But I know our Transcend survey is one of the ways that we do pulse checks with students to hear from them and get feedback from them. So if it's okay, Oh, yeah, and our superintendent has something as well. Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair Molinar and Board Member Harrison and Board Member Jaros. And Board Member Kelly, good afternoon. So in elementary, and actually in all of our schools, we have what we call our One Plan, which is our school improvement plan. And each building has specific initiatives and actions that they do around approving their attendance and addressing their attendance. And so we have a lot of buildings that, again, provide individual incentives, group incentives for attendance. Also, we utilize our family liaisons and our secretary support attendance a lot with daily phone calls. And so we do have tiered systems of support as it relates to targeting families that struggle with attendance and just addressing whatever those individual needs are that are causing students to miss school. And so sometimes it is specialized based on whatever the specific situation is that's causing students to be absent. But it is, many of all of our buildings have attendance, so PBIS teams. Some people have separated their attendance and discipline as it relates to what they're addressing within PBIS, so they can focus specifically on just attendance initiatives.
Yes, we do ask. We talk to students frequently and regularly. They have attendance plans that they go through individually. But anytime we want students to be in class, we spend time talking to students about being in class.
Now, I know this is for the entire district, the 56% to 60%. Do we notice there a difference between elementary absenteeism, middle school absenteeism, or high school? Are they all trending the same way, or are we getting more elementary absenteeism decline? Or
So interestingly enough, we sometimes in a building we see higher absences with our bookends. So at our younger grades where, we do our best job to help our families understand that kindergarten matters, and so missing school matters, and then our upper grades, and same in middle. You might see 6th grade and 8th grade, and high school, our 9th grade and our 12th graders. And so typically the bookends in a building will be where we see the greatest number of absences, but there may be a building here or there where it looks, maybe 7th grade at that particular middle school is the highest, but typically those bookends.
And then just the last question for Cornerstone 1. We're seeing the decline in the out-of-school suspensions. What alternative discipline are we enacting that is used to avoid these out-of-school time suspensions? Is it just the students are behaving better this year than they were last year? Or are we having a different discipline approach than previous years?
God bless you. Oh, and Superintendent Outley, you had something to add too, so I don't want to skip that. Great question. And so we hope a little bit of both. We of course, we hope that our students are, learning more about the expectations and understanding, this is what it means to, this is the conduct that we expect in school that is part of our PBIS with our expectations, and also that we respond a little differently because not everything warrants an out-of-school suspension, and not because a behavior might be repetitive doesn't mean that it warrants an out-of-school suspension. But yes, how do we look at alternative ways to message with our students and families what's acceptable and what's not, and really the things that are around safety, those kinds of things, making sure that we have a message that communicates to that level, but also recognizing some things that are developmentally appropriate and should be addressed as such versus out-of-school suspension.
Yeah, those are my questions for Cornerstone 1. I have a couple for 2, but I can yield if we're on this topic. But okay.
Thank you, Member President or Chair Molinar. I have a question and then a comment. Well, I should say the comment first. It would be helpful to have, we have the end of year data and then we have semester 1 data. So it would be helpful to have apples and apples. Okay, semester 1. Okay, so we can compare those and then have the end of year data to see where it would be helpful just to be able to know if we need to take a turn or we need to continue to do the same thing. So with the graphs, to have semester 1 of this year, semester 1 of last year, and then the end of year data where we finish.
Thank
The incidents, 3 incidents per quarter generates a communication to the parent. So does it take 3 incidents? Are we communicating? Incident 1 may be to a point where I need to talk to someone or we need some immediate correction. So how is that? How does that work?
Yes, great question. Let me clarify that. And so obviously any incident in a building that needs to be addressed by an administrator is going to be addressed in that communication home. So this piece, that parent communication, is something that we've started to do at the district level. It's a letter from Superintendent Outley to our families that says, hey, we're partners in this together. So we just use that 3. Just figuring out what net to capture, that we, just like the attendance letter, we send home to every family. This one we felt should be a little more targeted.
Member Kelly?
In addition to the blueprint that you've created or laid out for our students, our schools, and our educators, were there additional recommendations that the classroom teachers or paraprofessionals wanted to add to this? And if so, I am curious what ideas did they have, what concerns or feedback did you receive from them? Because our students are spending most of their time in these classrooms with their teachers, whether they're substitutes or paraprofessionals.
I'm pausing. One, I might ask you to clarify a little bit more. I'll say first, I remember when we were working on the blueprint, we invited community stakeholders to give us feedback on our action steps and strategies, and we did see a lot of teachers come and give us feedback. That was about 2 years ago. So if I missed the mark, can you give me a little bit more context?
You didn't.
Okay.
And thank you for answering it. But if this was drafted out 2 years ago, and the information you have in front of us is from this last school year and this school year, are there opportunities for the teachers to make additional recommendations on how this system works?
Yes, I believe so. So it's very individualized. We heard Mrs. Carter talk about those school improvement plans. So every building has taken our district focus and our blueprint, and they've aligned it to their building work. And so they identify the action steps and strategies most meaningful to their building and to their data, and they identify what adult actions they're going to take. And so when we meet monthly in our school improvement teams, which is teacher voices and admin voices at the table, they're guiding and massaging those action steps and strategies as the data comes in. And so what we've really offered you today is just some really big picture, high level, as we've mapped out our goals over the next 5 years. This is just a tiny snapshot showing you how we're progressing towards those end of the year goals. But everything is very customizable at the building level with teacher voice.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And now joining us is Member Montgomery. I do want to keep this meeting moving along. We have a lot more to talk about, and there are 2 meetings after this. And if we run over, it's like dominoes. We just make everyone else late. So let me go through a few things, and then first, when we're talking about the attendance here and the attendance letters, I think there's, from my experience, an opportunity of education for the parents on attendance. When I have my child who has to have a dentist appointment in the middle of the day, because that's the only time we could have the dentist appointment was the middle of the day. But we don't need to miss the whole day. And when I'm there, to get the letter from the dentist and give that back to the secretary, because the type of absence for the amount of time we're gone also matters. And so that education as a parent, I don't know if everyone has that same understanding, but I think there's an opportunity there. A second thing, as we were talking about letters and the 3 letters, I'm not quite sure what an occurrence is. On the table here, it listed what an occurrence is, but the implementation of this and how that's done, I think, is something this committee would really appreciate hearing more about. And I know that a couple weeks ago, Dr. Goggins came and spoke about some other things. And so I think that in our March meeting in section 301, there might be an opportunity to talk about policy, 5600, 5610, and just generally the implementation of our, and as Member Droz pointed out also, the behavior plans and how we are keeping students in the buildings and not just after 3 letters. So I have those. The last thing on my list as we keep moving, I would like Dr. Lash, please, I do want to hear the presentations on explicit instruction and enhanced core reading as it pertains to Cornerstone 2. So if we could then hold the rest of our Cornerstone 2 conversation after we get both of those. But before that, if I could get an understanding, or maybe during that, the difference between 3GG and explicit instruction and the types of asks that might come to the board and the timeline of those asks. So if we need 5 people for here and 5 people for here, are those the same 5 people at the same time or not? That's what would be very helpful to know. And it's 502. I saw that the explicit instruction slide deck is like 24 slides long. I think slide 20 is the one where it talked about the coaches. If we could, 5 minutes. Can we condense those 25 slides into 5 minutes? Thank you.
All right. Because I do love to talk about some explicit instruction, but we can go out afterwards. So it is aligned to Cornerstone 2. I won't get into that. We just talked about academics. So explicit instruction, I just want you to think about teaching very systematically, and this is not rocket science. So when we think about teaching explicitly, we're breaking tasks down from simple to complex. We're making sure that students actively participate, and that's what you're going to hear more about today. Immediate feedback. We want to make sure teachers are correcting errors in thinking right away so we don't lean in and repeat those same mistakes. And then just making sure that we're chunking what we're teaching into bite-sized concepts. So it's really just a very simple framework about solid teaching and learning that we're training on. And so this is, there are actually 16 pieces to explicit instruction, and we are not eating the whole elephant. We're focused in on number 4, which is designed and organized focused lessons. For us, that's around vocabulary acquisition, which is a standard that needs a lot of work across our schools. And then we're also focused on number 11, require frequent responses. So that's actively engaged in the learning. Why does this matter? So if you're familiar with educational research, Dr. Molinar, I think you are. So John Hattie is an expert. He's done a lot of meta-analysis. And so he's identified a hinge point of 0.4. So anything that has an effect size above 0.4 shows statistically that kids are getting more bang out of their buck in that strategy. They're learning more than a year in a year's time. So explicit instruction is a 0.57. Direct instruction, which is like stand and deliver, again, a high effect size if done explicitly. And then, of course, mastery learning, which we're all about teaching those standards. So that's why we chose this as a universal core, and that's going to come up later. Like explicit instruction is core, all classrooms, all kids, where 3GG we're going to talk about later is like a focused intervention for a smaller group of kids. This is everyone. So we actually trained 34 teachers with the guru, Anita Archer, also principals and teachers, pulling principals and teachers from some of our most at-risk buildings who had designated with improvement status. Those teams identified those 2 strategies for our district to focus on. We came back and worked with Marcy and other district leaders to train every department here at 10 North Main. Every building has identified those 2 strategies as part of their 1 plans in adopting solid core instructional strategies. We continue to do that rollout and the professional development on our IAD days. Our coaches are trained to do it. We're monitoring these strategies through PACE and walkthroughs. And I'm happy to say we presented to AEA and our PAR teachers. And so they even created the palm cards for every teachers. We love our archerisms, right? I do it, you do it, we do it. I'm not going to make you do the strategy today, but beware my next time. So next steps, we want to continue, and one of the actions you might see is the request to send more people to the training. Now, unfortunately, it is out of state, which adds some cost, but she is the guru, and she trains 150 people per year. We want to continue to strengthen our systems of implementation. We want to determine the next steps. I noted 16 explicit instructions, and we're only focused on 2 right now, so there's more work to be done. And then continue to talk about how we onboard new staff. This is funded all by federal dollars, so Title I, II, III, and IV have been funding this initiatives. I know that's important. And then I just wanted to share a little bit of data. So in the past 2 months, we've been in over 600 classrooms as central office employees, focused mostly in reading and math, but you can see we've been a little bit everywhere. We've been looking for that opportunities to respond strategy. So on those lower level tasks, we want kids to be actively engaged in responding 5 to 6 times per minute, or 4 to 5 times per minute. For those higher level problems, maybe 1 to 2 times per minute. So it's a fast pace, and it requires that everybody does the work, everybody does the learning. And so when we see that, when we see that, you can see our baseline for the beginning of the year. We're seeing 1 to 2 and above in the majority of our classes, so we got a good foothold. The other strategy is a 4-part vocabulary acquisition strategy, and that one's harder to catch because that vocab happens in like a smaller section of the lesson. That's where you'll see 0. It just wasn't there when we walked in. But you can see pretty much 70% of the time, we're seeing the strategy being implemented at full fidelity in our classrooms. I'm going to skip through some of those data slides. It's a 4-part strategy, so I had 4 slides for you. But we're going to jump in. So ECRI is another model that we're using, and it is also explicit instruction, and Dr. Nguyen's going to talk about that.
We're using ECRI in many of our elementary buildings for grades K-2. This model was designed by the Center of Teaching and Learning at the University of Oregon. And so this approach to instruction is rooted in the science of reading and is designed for schools with a strong multi-tiered system of supports in reading. It really enhances the core curriculum because we believe a strong core will eliminate the other Tier 2 and Tier 3. And it also addresses the foundational standards for reading, phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency. And with the ECRI, it's ongoing. There's screening, progress monitoring, and ongoing coaching to support our instructional coaches as well as our teachers implementing ECRI. The whole purpose of ECRI was designed with the intention of improving literacy in K-2. So how does it enhance core instruction? As you know, we adopted Wonders 3 years ago. Our board adopted it. Wonders was highly reviewed in the ED report. That's how it was selected. But you know, there's no perfect curriculum out there. So with ECRI, we were able to build another layer on Wonders. You know, a lot of districts had to incorporate the foundational standards, but with ECRI, it's just another layer that aligns to our scope and sequence for Wonders, which makes it really nice. So our teachers are not seeing another thing out there, but something that's aligned to what they are doing. So as you can see in our framework every day, we have 150 minutes of reading instruction for K-2 students for reading and writing. So ECRI is threaded throughout for whole group instruction, emphasizing the systematic, explicit teaching for phonemic awareness, phonics, for the pillars of reading, and then also building in vocabulary and comprehension. But then also ECRI has foundational lessons so that when we do small group for our struggling readers, we can focus and target to help them in their areas of deficit. So it's really nice that we can thread it throughout our core instruction. So how did we participate in this study? It was funded by the IES, the Institute of Education Sciences. So we had a phase 1 and phase 2. So in phase 1, we had 6 treatment schools and 6 control schools. So the treatment schools implemented ECRI in first grade, And then we also added training for our K and 2 teachers in the treatment schools. For the control schools, first grade had no, business as usual, they're only implementing the core curriculum. We did allow training for the other 2 grade levels, but first grade for treatment and control schools, we compared, the data was collected by RAND, and they only focused to see the impact of buildings that implemented ECRI versus the buildings, the treatments, the control schools that didn't. So to implement ECRI, the training was rigorous. Our teachers had 2 days, full days of training, along with our instructional coaches. Our principals were trained a half day. We wanted to make sure that all the stakeholders that are impacting this in the building are trained so they can support the fidelity of implementation. And you know the one and done PD never works. So ECRI is ongoing throughout the school year. In January, we added vocabulary and comprehension. So we're continuing to support our teachers. The best thing, we are provided with an ECRI coach who comes on site to model for our teachers the delivery of the explicit phonemic awareness instruction with our students. She also provides the ongoing professional development. And then there's virtual assistance for our principals as well as our coaches and our teachers. So we wanted to make sure that it's going to be a strong support in our core and also in intervention. So there are celebrations. There are many. I'm just going to mention a few. Our teachers have already shared the growth that they've seen in their students. There's instruction consistency across the K-2 grade levels in classrooms. The teachers are utilizing the strategies, and it really helps them with that explicit instructional delivery. In our data, you know that the RAND only looks at first grade, but we also in Akron Public Schools, we monitor K through 2nd grade. We administer the dibbles throughout 3 times a year. So when we look at the treatment schools using ECRI and the control schools, we see that the treatment schools outperform the control schools. The grade level that has the highest growth was kindergarten with over 4 points in growth. So that's exciting because our kindergartners are the youngest grade level. So if we can be able to close that gap early on, we continue to build it for them as they progress through the grades. So our next steps is we hope that we can include the remaining buildings with ECRI to build another layer to support core instruction.
Are there any questions?
Thank you. So to frame my understanding of the last few minutes, our academic achievement, you showed us this wonderful slide, and I had to remind myself from this slide that this year's 5th graders were last year's 4th graders. So last year's 4th graders were 40%, this year's 5th graders 47, that's a growth, right? Last year's 7th graders were 34, this year's 8th graders were 35. Last year's 6th graders were 29, this year's 7th graders are 41%. So from what I'm hearing is this growth, we are attributing some of this growth to ECRI and explicit instruction, and administration wants to, because of this success, expand this initiative. Is that what I am hearing?
I mean, I want to say yes, but explicit instruction is a brand new strategy for us, and ECRI, we're in year 2, and it's a K-2 strategy. But what we weren't able in our small time period is to present you all the grade level and building data, and yes, we are seeing tremendous, I'm going to say tremendous results with these strategies, and we would like to continue them, yes.
Yes, I will do questions from the board, but we will do 2 minutes, please, of quick questions because we have 4 more things. Member Harrison.
Thank you for this presentation. Does this apply to our readers who may be behind considerably? And that's the question, but what is a time frame that it would take to recover a grade? If I'm 2 grades behind, what is an expected, or how do I recover a grade?
Well, I think that we continue to push the intervention and support. Now, if you're 2 grade levels below, we hope that we can close that gap for at least the 1 grade level below, because we know that reading is a progress, each year in the progression. But we really provide that intervention for our students. And, we have had students who were able to close the gap when they were 2 grade levels below. And then we've had students with 1 grade level below. So it depends on the student, but I think the strategies that we are doing to really support core instruction, and then in our multi-tiered system of support, we have our core teachers focusing on Tier 1 with the universal all students, and Tier 2 for our bubble students, and then our Tier 3 even more intensively. We have tutors that support them 30 minutes a day. So we're really trying to intervene.
If I could just add, I think the biggest takeaway is both of these are Tier 1 core strategies. So this year, we're focused on making sure every student in every class gets a stronger foundation. And then to put a time on it, I think with, students aren't widgets, and so it's kind of hard. We don't expect to close the gap in 1 year. I'll say that, it's going to be slow and steady.
Yeah, I don't have a question, but wonderful presentation. Thank you for sharing all this information with us and the work being done. It sounds like the administration likes it, the teachers like it. From some of the comments here, the students like it. So I guess the only thing moving forward is let us know what you need and any support you need. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. On the slide right before this, it does say provide ongoing on-site virtual assistance and following professional development. Do we have a timeline if board action might be needed for this?
For now, no. So we do have we didn't invite her here today. Her name is Karen. She's actually here this week providing that on-site assistant. I think, if anything, we have 10 buildings who are not ECRI trained, first grade. The study's over at the end of this year, and we would like to provide them an opportunity to be trained. Right now, it's been an opt-in, so 2 things. Either one, we would be asking the board to approve professional development dollars, federal funds, to continue that training, or even to go as far as to say we're wholly adopting it. If the data shows this is the right move for our kids, it could be an ask to make it part of our core instructional program.
All of our grade 1 treatment school, control schools, 10 of the first grade buildings did not get ECRI because they were the control, so they were not to use it.
Thank you. Great question.
Thank you. Any other questions on this? Okay. I do see that the next on our agenda, we are back almost in order. Section 303, Gemini and Notebook LM. This appears to have been January 16th training. Is there upcoming action for the board for this topic?
No upcoming action right now. It will kind of dovetail in our AI policy that eventually the board will adopt and have on the books by July 1, 2026. Are you looking to make up time, Dr. Monar?
Yes, but if this is something for us to prepare for July 1, 26, if you can just give us a quick overview so we can refer back when July 1 will be here before we know it.
Yes. Thank you, Chair Monar. Karen Stepik, I will invite her to do that quick overview.
Yes, thank you. I am Karen Stepik. I am your instructional technology and library and media content specialist. And I did want to just highlight some of the things. Gemini and Notebook LM are AI tools that are built into our Google for Education workspace. They are available to us at no further charges. So these are powerful tools that are already available to us in Google. Gemini is a chatbot similar to maybe ChatGPT is something that some people are more familiar with. And then Notebook LM is a specialized AI assistant that allows you to either do research or add your own documents, and it co-creates with you using your documents only. And can I go to the next slide? Yep. These are some of the benefits I know you all can read. I will point out that one of the wonderful things about Gemini and Notebook inside our Google Education Workspace is that data security. So what you chat and the information you share stays within our APS Learns education space. It is not trained. It is not shared back to Google. You will see no marketing there. It is a safe space. So if for some reason you needed analysis of an IEP or things like that, you are not violating FERPA in any way. So this is one of the reasons I recommend this tool, because some of the other tools you have to spend a lot of time redacting information. And then the last slide is just a picture. We did have a training on January 16th. I had 70 teachers show up. We had to drag in extra tables and chairs to fit everyone in. And we really had, so I had a wide range of beginners and experts, and everybody got something out of the training. And yes, we are going to have to provide the state with an updated AI policy. So you are going to be hearing about AI from us again in the future. Is there any questions?
No. Thank you for this, and especially as students are using these items, I think this would be a really good opportunity if there's something really cool that they're doing to bring to the Student Success Committee. So I encourage you to think of something that's really amazing that they've done. I know that there's the podcast and all those kinds of things, and I think it would be really great for the community to see what our students are creating. And that might help us as board members also, when you come up with the policy, to understand this is why we need them to be able to do this or need to limit this other thing also.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are moving right along here. The next item on here, we're down to 4.02, Policy 5120, Assignment Within District. Dr. Lash.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to invite Executive Director of School Leadership, Larry Johnson, to give this update.
Good evening. As part of our annual responsibility under Policy 5120, the superintendent's team is conducting a review of our enrollment patterns and attendance boundaries across the district. We are paying close attention to student feeder patterns to determine if adjustments are warranted. Currently, the focus is on analysis, planning, and thoughtful sequencing, including how our district will support students and families and staff should any changes eventually be considered. We want to be intentional about ensuring that the information that is shared directly with care. If the superintendent ultimately brings forward a recommendation, the district will follow the process outlined in Policy 5120, including advance notice to the board, opportunities for the board to review and public comment, and direct communication with our families prior to any board action. Today's update is intended to keep the board informed that the policy-guided work is underway and to reaffirm our commitment to a transparent process.
Thank you. Are there any details that the administration would like to share with the board?
Madam Chair, I'm going to just look down the table at Superintendent Outley to see if there are any details to be added.
Just for clarification, the concern that was brought to us by the principal was that they need support with relief due to their growing student population was verified by a map that we used with our Cropper firm that looks at our student populations and where they're attending. And so we are in agreement that that relief needs to be supported, and we would like to move on to the next phase, which is going out to the community and meeting with the teachers and the families and explaining and answering any questions they may have. And at that time, we can certainly go into a deeper dive and field any questions that they bring to the table. But we think the proposal is a solid one that we would like support for.
Is the proposal coming to the March meeting then?
So the proposal we could share with you right now. So right now we're looking at sending the current fifth graders who would be rising to sixth grade instead of them going to Jennings. There's less than 60 of them. We would assign them to Ennis. So they would then become part of the Garfield cluster, feed into Ennis, and then they would go on to Garfield.
But are there any questions from other committee members? Thank you.
One of the things, we had heard that may be necessary. One of the things that I would really like to do is to get that out to the parents as soon as possible and give them an opportunity to weigh in on that. There's not a lot that we can do when we have a building that has no more room for the students other than find a building that can house them. But I certainly would like to hear some of the challenges and see that if we can, as a district, alleviate some of those challenges as we really want to get into the consequences and unintended consequences and try to address those as soon as possible.
We know that probably one of the number one questions would be around transportation and how would they get there, and so we would be prepared to address that as well.
Just following back to Dr. Molinar's initial question, do we know when we will likely be making a decision? Was that March? Is that too late, too soon? When do we expect a decision that you need to come to us for some sort of action?
We would definitely like to come to you by March. We would like to spend February going out again, having an opportunity to talk to the staff and students, fielding any questions that the parents may have, and making sure that even they have an opportunity to go and see Ennis. We've done that before with our community when we have to do a boundaries change and then be able to come back and move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for starting this conversation. And I want to remind the community that this is just the start of a conversation. There's no need to panic. There is no need to think that decisions have already been made. The conversation is just beginning. And so I appreciate administration for doing this. I appreciate that we are going to go out and gather input and feedback and then hopefully come back to our March meeting. When we say proposal, it sounds like we already have, and we don't. We're still working on it. I appreciate being part of this process, and I suggest that maybe our March meeting, section 401, we can discuss the progress that has been made as you go out into the community and hear from our families and our teachers. So thank you so much for this. Any other questions on this item? Member Kelly, thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Dr. Molinar. I want to make sure that I understand this correctly. We've not had a conversation with the parents of these students. I just want to say at this moment that, or reassure our guardians and our parents of our students that when we speak of transparency, that we want to reassure them that a conversation will be had. Because if they are tuning in now, this is their first time hearing about that.
Our policy states that we're to bring it first to the board, and so we thought the first step would be to bring it to committee to begin discussions.
Thank you, Superintendent Otley.
All right, thank you. And with that, we are at exactly 5:30, but I do have a couple things I want to say very quickly, so I'm apologizing to the next committee and everyone else now. First, the yearly cycle of work that we discussed in the meeting previous to this. I know administration is still working on that. I'm excited to hear that. I'm excited to hear that you've made progress on that, and so in our March meeting, we can discuss that because I really do see that as the core of what this this committee can accomplish when you bring us things like, this explicit instruction and the types of things that we're considering making part of a district-wide initiative. These are the types of things that this board needs to hear. So thank you for your progress on that. We did not forget about it. Also, what I have in my notes so far for March, it's grown during this whole meeting. So we have 301, policy 5600, 5610, and then I didn't know, Member Harrison, if we wanted to add 301, policy 5421 about instructional time and hours.
Yeah.
Yes. So 2 items for 301 for March, and then it's 531, but if we could, in section 303 for our March meeting, have a brief discussion. And it's come to my attention that House Bill 42 is making its way through the Ohio House of Representatives, the State House, and there are some elements of House Bill 42 that I think will affect districts like ours, and so I think especially from an instructional technology standpoint, I would like to hear the burden it might place on our district and ways that we can maybe lead a conversation on why I personally do not think that it would benefit our district. I think it would cost us time and resources at the expense of our students. But I would like for you to tell us in more detail what that would actually entail if we had to do something like this, so we can provide that information to our hire other representatives. So 303 for that, and then we have 401 now for the building relief, and 601, the Neola policy that we have discussed now in 3 meetings. Is this, I know you gave it to us here, is this the final Neola policy? Or is this the start of a conversation?
That is the start of a conversation. That is the policy as it currently stands. And so by March, though, to your point, Dr. Monar, we will have the Neola update and ready to bring that to the Instructional Policy Committee.
Okay, so thank you. We will keep this here in Instructional Policy 601 when Neola is ready. And then finally, I think the only thing we don't have for March is 302. And so as it was mentioned in our last board meeting, the Dear Colleague letter has been struck down. And so in section 302, if we could bring back a conversation about our policy 2260, 04, 05, 07, all of those that were rescinded last year, if we could bring that conversation back for 302, and I think we have a March meeting. So we can all come prepared. Are there any other questions or comments before I steal any more time from other committees?
Can you put that cosmetology on?
Yes, that's 301.
Okay.
Is this going immediately into the next meeting?
Maybe a 2-minute break.
I guess I'm going to ask a couple people for the correct spellings of their names. Is that
Okay. Yeah, so with this, it's 5:34, and this meeting will be adjourned, and we will shuffle seats and start the next meeting.